G'day everyone, welcome back to another Loaded Dice Plays video. We're still going to continue on with the Hydra Tactics Cards reviews here, and on this one I'm just going to chuck two into one because these two are going to be, lack of a better word, they're going to be the two duds of the affiliated tactics cards. I think a lot of affiliations have cards that they probably won't see too often, and I think these two are going to be the ones in Hydra that you're probably not going to see, at least not competitively, and maybe not even for fun, if I'm being honest with you. I think the first one we're going to cover, there might just be some undiscovered tech that I'm missing, and I'm willing to be proved wrong on it. For the second card, I feel like once you open your eyes and have a good read of it, it actually is probably a bit garbage, although might have some niche fun. But just to start off with, we'll go back to that first card, and it's going to be Endless Legions. And just to give a bit of an outline, I just don't see how this card is going to be used or be good. So if we just run through the terms and conditions of this one real quick, you play it in the power phase, so you kind of have to foreshadow how your turn's going to go, which is a little bit weird. But Red Skull plays a card. The cool thing is it doesn't cost any power. So there's no power cost to Red Skull, but he has to be on the table and you have to play it in the power phase. The other part of the conditions are each time an allied Hydra troopers would be KO'd this round, remove all damage for them and they are not KO'd. Then an opposing player pushes them short. So that's just weird, right? I just don't see any real uses of this except for keeping your Hydra troopers alive and becoming a battery for your opponent to build power off of. They do contest the secures, which is good, so you can try to keep them on a secure, and the only thing I can really see them doing is being locked into place between another character and terrain or something to that effect where you just need them to stay alive and to score you a secure. But realistically, I really don't see any sort of situation where this is deemed to be worth a tactics slot, to be honest with you. I just don't see any reason why you'd really want to take this and any use where it's going to be more useful than even trip up. The other part of it is it is Hydra affiliate. All the Hydra cards, just so you know, they actually are all Hydra affiliated. There's no real splash cards that I've seen with them. So it's not even something that you can splash into another affiliation that you want to bring Red Skull into to try to keep some Hydra troopers alive for some weird extra tech going on. So it's literally just for Hydra, and I don't. With the short push that they have online as well, I just don't see any reason you want to take this, because when it gets real, it's going to be more of a Hydra troopers get dazed with their 1 defense and 3 health, get probably pushed short towards the enemy lines, and then just become a battery for power. That's kind of how I see this card being actually played out on the table, and I don't see any reason to bring it, unfortunately. I would love to be proved wrong, and then if you have some sort of weird jank plan where you just need your Hydra troopers alive, I would love to see it, but I don't see it. I guess the only thing you probably could do is they can do their cool action where they can move and shoot and get their full rerolls, and then they KO'd at the end of the attack, but then they just get pushed. If that's cool enough to bring a tactics card, I don't think so at all. But by all means, if you have an idea, let me know. I'm willing to listen to it. So that's pretty much Endless Legions wrapped up. I honestly think that's one that's just going to be left on the side bench and probably never to be thought of again until maybe some future release that makes them good. The other one I want to look at, which is going to go in a similar pile, is 2 more shall rise. So this was a very interesting one where that day 1, minute 1, when I saw this card, I was super hot and I thought this card was lit. So if we just look to run this card down from top to bottom, all right? So an allied Hydra character with an active leadership ability is KO'd. Another character plays the card. 2 allied characters with a Hydra or Cabal leadership ability both get chosen, and their leadership abilities become active. So let's break this down, because it is, on first look, you kind of think, I lose one leadership and then I gain 2 leaderships. And the way the game is, man, 2 leaderships just sounds so good. Like, in theory, you start thinking of your own, probably your personal affiliation and how that would work for you. But really, when we have a good look at this, it's going to be pretty lame. So to start, you're going to require both Red Skull and Strucker to be in your list and both alive. And then you're also going to need a Cabal character who is a leader. So you're looking at either only Malekith or Sin, because you can't have Red Skull because you need the 2 Hydra characters for this to be active. So Red Skull 1, you can't actually get his leadership, not really. Unless, of course, you really want to go Strucker with no Red Skull 2 and you want to put Red Skull 1 and Malekith or Sin in your list, and somehow you still have enough Hydra characters to be Hydra affiliated, you can kind of work, but I'm probably going to overlook that because it sounds kind of lame, to be honest. So the most common thing that's going to happen here is you're probably going to start with your Hydra Red Skull 2 leadership active, and then say you just play him aggressively, he gets dazed and KO'd, and then you can play this, and then you're going to get Strucker's leadership online and maybe Malekith's leadership online. So the way that's probably going to work is probably worst case scenario if you are throwing out Red Skull being pretty aggressive with him. Worst case scenario, it's turn 2, but I feel like if you're getting Red Skull days on turn 1, you're probably doing something wrong anyway. So realistically, the worst case scenario for this, or best case scenario, is going to be on turn 3, you're going to be able to play this. And then on turn 3, Red Skull's off the table, so you're not happy about that anyway, but you can play this, and then you're going to put on Strucker's leadership, and you're also going to put on Malekith's leadership. I'm going to assume you're playing Malekith here because that's not a bad 15, and I'm just going to assume you're not playing Sin because Sin is, I'm just going to say not great. She's just not the best 3 character you can play, especially with the swathe of 3s that affiliated 3s that Hydra have at their disposal. Hydra are not short of really good 3s to put in your list, and unfortunately Sin is not one of them. Maybe you want to play Sin just for this card and to do the lottery of rolling a dice on her leadership on turn 3 or 4. That's cool. That's an option that you have. I just don't think that's going to be a competitive option. So if we just circle back and say it's going to be Red Skull 2, Strucker, and Malekith, it's probably not going to be too bad in the sense that there's probably a bit of healing available for the team if you can chuck some conditions around and then do your Malekith days KO someone and get your moves and your heals. So there's going to be a weird amount of healing if you can get it off. But I honestly believe that being that late in the game, it's going to be vastly irrelevant, and you're also going to you have to play Malekith rather defensively. Now, it's a bit hard to get into this one without diving somewhat into Malekith and the beast that he is and all the things that he brings to the table. But if you're not, I think Malekith is a pretty good one where his leadership is quite good, and if you are playing him and you have the option to play his leadership, you probably do want to play it. So once Red Skull's been KO'd, you do get to activate, say, Strucker's leadership, and that to me is not worth this card even existing. I'm not very big on Strucker at all. I don't rate him as a leader at all. I actually don't even rate him very good as a 3 threat, but that's a personal opinion. He's fine and he's affiliated, so that's great, and I want him in the list for High Council. But I don't think he's that great of a 3, and he's not worth warranting to take, in my opinion, for this 2 more shall rise just to get his leadership online later in the game on that turn 3 or 4. I don't see that being even worth being in the conversation of why you might want to bring this card. But if we do talk about why we might want to bring this card, it's for Malekith, which I'm going to assume is going to be the Cabal leader in your list. And his leadership is definitely worth considering, and it's going to be a big deal. Turning on that leadership on turn 3 or 4, it's going to be a pretty big deal. I should say it has the potential to be a big deal. The downside is you don't have it on early, and you're not playing a Cabal list then, you're playing a Hydra list, so it is a little bit of to and fro. And if I'm being honest, if you have Red Skull and Malekith in the same roster and you're playing that game, I feel like I, as the opposing player, am putting a lot of more value in trying to daze and KO Malekith than I am Red Skull. I think Malekith is my number 1 prime target to get rid of, because if I can get rid of Malekith, I'm probably going to go well to winning that game. And the other part of it is, if you're playing for this card and you have Red Skull, Strucker, and Malekith in your list, you're going to have to play Malekith a little bit weird or outside the norm is probably the best way to think about it, because you almost have to play defensively and not put him in any sort of danger whatsoever of being dazed or KO'd. Otherwise, you're just going to be throwing this card in the bin. It's not going to be worth playing. Really, that's kind of how I see this card really being, is with the terms and conditions of it and the way it kind of makes you want to play and the restrictions that it has. I don't think it's a card that I would be wanting to bring to the table, although it does sound cool. You lose your leader and then 2 more shall rise. It's got the Hydra cut off the head thing. It is pretty cool, but I don't see it being very practical, unfortunately, especially with the characters that they have available. That being said, this can be a card that can go on the shelf and if we get more Hydra and Cabal leaders down the line, this might be a card that might be worth revisiting somewhere down the line. So with that pretty much wraps up our Hydra tactics cards. I really want to hear people's thoughts on this, and if I've missed the mark, or if people agree with me that these two cards are probably a little bit in the garbage bin and might be left on the shelf to gather some dust for a while until there's some more releases. I've been given a few ideas on what to do for the next series in regards to characters and tactics cards and all that. I'm going to leave the Hydra characters for a little bit. I think we're just going to leave Hydra on the shelf for a little bit. If you have any requests or ideas that you might want me to review or have a look at, I'm definitely all ears. But yeah, until then, cheers.